Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Jillian. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the news. We're seeing a lot of uprising in the inner cities. And yeah, people are having some major issues. And it's pretty crazy. It's difficult to watch. But remember, Jilly Juicers, those that are on the Jilly Juice, I told you we're going to be watching a lot of people in your world unraveling in so many different ways, and you must be strong enough, you ought to be strong enough to handle this. And the Jilly Juice is going to help you guys really get through the next however many years we have to deal with this. I don't see an end in sight. It's just begun. Okay, if you've watched my previous videos, I do mention the kickoff season is 2020, the Georgia Guidestones. I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm seeing it happen. Okay, we have 7 billion people in this world. A lot of people are imbalanced. We're seeing a lot of different deviancies in our society and crimes and different government agencies having to look after a lot of different people. And we're seeing a lot of people living on the system, and not it's through any fault of their own. We have a lot of health issues. And when you have a lot of health issues, how can you possibly contribute equally on a level playing field? Okay? I mean, that's really the crux of all of the issues in our society, is that we have very unhealthy people who don't know what to do with their anger and don't know what to do with the pain that they have dealt with for so many years. And so it gets manifested and projected outwards in different ways. And so yesterday, I put a question out there in several of my local groups, and saying that, do we need to be confronting people, in retail establishments to put a mask on and all of that? Okay, and I know I'm kind of belaboring this point about mask, no mask, whatever, but that's kind of that is a representation of what's going on, is when we are being pit against each other in our society, and having the regular lay person who did not cause any of this. The government is definitely putting out mandates that are not legally binding and are not a legal remedy for the situation, and they're forcing establishments to put their employees on the front lines, confronting people who are unraveling very fast regarding what's going on with the masks, with the virus, with the social distancing, with all of that. And all I'm trying to do is just not create more tinder boxes. And so I just put a question out there. Um, if you are in an establishment where they are following the mask's order, don't make your employees confront every customer. Just have a sign out, and if somebody wants to confront a customer, fine, but don't force your employees to be that judge, jury, and executioner, especially when people are just trying to get their coffee or trying to get their kids fed, and they don't have the option for Amazon to have all of their groceries be dropped off in their front door. Sometimes you just have to go to a store, and they don't want to wear a mask, and you don't want to trigger anybody. So don't put anybody in that position. But people are still in that whole political thing of mask, no mask, and whatever, fine. So, but I wanted people to have the awareness raised. What was my whole point of it? Was to say, hey, you're in a no-win situation. The government put us in a no-win situation of where we're fighting each other, and a war perceptions. There's no winning in that. Okay, and so now, so I just wanted to raise that awareness, that just try not to trigger your community into some kind of tinderbox. And then the outcome of that, actually, somebody found an article that says that Home Depot and Walmart are not enforcing the mask laws because of violent confrontations, which was precisely my point. We don't want to trigger someone into a violent confrontation face to face. Okay? Whatever you say on Facebook, whatever you say on Facebook, that's fine. We raise awareness. We have our feelings. Do what you got to do. But when it comes to the actual physical face to face, don't put people in a type of, hand to hand combat, especially when it's their job. Okay? If you want to protest and you want to riot, which I don't love, but if you want to do all that, then you are voluntarily going out there in the streets in the inner cities and committing those acts, and then, you put yourself on the battlefield. but those that are trying to feed their families should not be put on a battlefield such as that. And that's all I was trying to say, is don't make your employees, who may not even want to be dealing with this, be put on a battlefield that they don't want to be a part of, and not have their job be contingent upon them participating. So anyways, and of course everyone's arguments like, oh well, no shirt, no shoes, no service. Well, here's the thing, if you really want to bring that into it, people did not originally say the masks on their own. The whole mask law came from the government and from this virus, so it wasn't really like the establishment, the 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 vendor or the establishment's original thought process. And when there is something dangerous like confronting somebody in your store, okay, then that would be putting somebody in danger. It would be an occupational hazard, which then if you want to bring in government and mandates to your store, then OSHA should really be coming in and assessing how that should be handled and who should be the one to confront customers when there is a government mandate that isn't a law, but it's a mandate. Okay, so no matter across the board, I just don't want employees being put in that position. But hey, it's not my business, but I just figured, hey, every employee has a right to deny that or to not put in that position. So anyways, it's all very legal and very, circuitous, but that was yesterday. So it was interesting seeing the responses. But anyways, I want you to understand the difference between a lethal injection and a vaccine. So a lethal injection has specific drugs that do specific things, that paralyze you and then shut the organs down one by one. Now, how it actually works, it really, when you think about it, a lethal injection is exactly what it is. It shuts the body down very, very quickly. But first, what it does, it actually paralyzes. So you actually cannot move, but you feel all the pain. Because the body's going to try to live, and it's not like, all of a sudden, all at once, the body just ceases to live. No, it happens system by, it's a pretty torturous way to go when you are under a lethal injection. Because first of all, you can't move. Okay, so when somebody is strapped to a chair or a board or something, and they are being put a lethal injection, first their body's paralyzed, so anybody watching can't see him writhe in agony. Okay, and then each system shuts down one by one, and that has to be painful. The way that person went out was probably the most torturous experience ever, and that sucks. And that sucks. So in a lot of ways, I'm not for the death penalty when I think about it, because I know when the body is trying to live and a person doesn't give it what it needs, the person's in pain. And so that's why they get different drugs to anesthetize their body, right? But no, these prisoners who, yes, have committed crimes, they are being put under lethal injection. And oh my God, it's a torturous way to go because your body's paralyzed first, okay? And then antibodies are then developing, and that's why the drug is so quick, because the antibodies develop at a very rapid pace, because there's a specific intention. It's to kill you, okay? That's the only intention of a lethal injection, is to kill you and shut down your body, but first paralyze it and then shut down system by system. And if you've been through pain in your life, you know exactly, well, you'll know what a prisoner goes through when you've been in pain in your life, when they have been put under the lethal injection. So I actually think it's pretty barbaric. And I know people are like, well, what do they do? These prisoners, or these people on death row, they killed and they did this. And yeah, I'm not excusing that either. But oh my God, do we really need to be torturing people? But they torture the people too. And I'm like, okay, and that's all political. But I want you to understand the physics behind lethal injection, okay, is where you have no power to move, to dilute that injection, to do anything to save yourself. That's the difference. Lethal injection and the vaccine is where it's about antibodies. It's a type of antibodies that is targeting a specific system in your body, okay? And the COVID-19, well, that's the COVID-19, any virus of the COVID-19 that affects your system, and it could affect people differently. So what do these antibodies do in the vaccines? They are programmed to go after any virus that's attached to your system, and then your system sends off messages of evolution, which is pain, okay? And then the antibodies go after those specific messages and completely eradicate. They search and destroy. It's like spy bot search and destroy. That's exactly what these monoclonal antibodies do. They stop evolution as soon as possible. But here's the thing. Well, why is it okay to have antibodies in your natural environment, like when you go outside and you breathe in pollen and all of that stuff? Because that's the body trying to adapt, and now you are evolving to the next level atmosphere, which is a pollinated atmosphere, but also you are regenerating simultaneously, and the amount of antibodies being induced by the pollen is relative to your predispositions and relative to what kind of chemistry you're bringing to your body. And so, with the jelly juicers, we have found that people have overcome their pollen allergies and other types of food allergies, which you shouldn't be allergic to food. And if you are, that was a programmed antibody in your body that then the system, then if you wanted to get therapy, they would program another antibody to go after that antibody causing inflammation or evolution. Okay, so there's definitely ways of which a system can anesthetize you and stop evolution and maybe cause a problem, and then you get a reaction and then they have a solution. So there is the Hegelian dialectic as well, but that's also mixed in with what you naturally are going to be experiencing in your environment, which is why you blow your nose when it's cold outside, okay, or why you blow your nose when you're going outside in a new pollinated environment during the springtime, that you went from winter to spring and now you have to get used to a new environment. Okay, so it's biotech taking your natural responses and then programming it to their specific intention. And so a vaccine will induce antibodies and will also target the evolution in your body and try to stop it. But the thing is with the jelly juicers is you have the option to release the excess antibodies that are causing the disinformation programming in it. Okay, so you still can take on the evolution of the viruses, because there is going to be a virus. That's where antibodies come from when it comes to these vaccines. It's derived from a viral protein that induced an immune response, which is an antibody, and that's why they're taking these DNA tests and testing everybody, and then those that test positive, they're taking those antibodies and using it as a prototype. So these testing that are going on, like I said, is not for the individual, because it's not going to matter. If you've been exposed to a virus, you're going to end up eventually testing positive. Okay? And positive negative really isn't a bad thing. It's just, it's just how your biochemistry fluctuates at any given moment in time, and it could change every single day or every week relative to your lifestyle predispositions and your geographical location and your environment and all of that. So testing is not really for you. It is for biotech to program these specific antibodies. And so that was that. So when I posted the difference between a lethal injection, which is where it's a programmed type of paralysis and then shutting down the organs one by one, versus a vaccine where you actually have recourse. You actually have the opportunity, the allowance to go and release the excess. You can still take on the programming and have it work to your benefit, but if you apply the wrong chemistry, which is what's going on right now with this COVID-19 vaccine with Moderna, which is getting a lot of weird reviews, and you can Google that and look at my timeline. But they're saying that it's actually inducing a very strong immune response, which means that they don't care how they don't care to make it more mild. Okay, when you have an immune response, you have a lot of antibodies being induced, a lot of antibodies now going in and searching and destroying anything that could have any semblance of evolution, because your body does send off messages. Okay, your biochemistry sends off messages, your cells send off messages. And so that's why the salt is so amazing, because it actually clears up the communication between each system. So the salt with the jelly juice will not only allow the communication to be that much clearer between all the different systems, but the jelly juice does regenerate simultaneously, so you can strengthen your body to handle the new environment, to handle the vaccines, to handle the evolution that your body has been stagnated from for years and years. And that's relative, again, to your family medical history, predispositions, belief systems, all of that. Okay? So really, when you think about the next vaccine coming up in January or December, those that are on the jelly juice will definitely have an immune response from the vaccine, because it's not going to baby step you into that new evolution. Okay, it's going to put you right there into an evolutionary response, which is an immune response, and then you'll be still dealing with your own predispositions from years ago, and then also the new environment, because you've already been exposed to the COVID-19 environment. It's been released, and people have been experiencing different levels of evolution over the last 6 months. But now you got to get used to another environment, which is basically the vaccines, and then the vaccine people shedding. And so even the non-vaccinated will be immunized and on some level from their environment. And that's where the herd immunity, okay? So herd immunity actually is a real thing. And that's why most likely it's not going to matter if you are a conscientious objector, because you're going to be exposed ultimately to somebody who has been newly vaccinated. And not everyone's going to tell you their family medical history, what they've done. Now, I've told my friends that, hey, I'm going to go get vaccinated because I need to be the one to show that you can get vaccinated, be exposed to antibodies and viruses and whatever is in the vaccines, and do jelly juice and still survive it all, and actually probably upgrade to another level of evolution. Okay? So I've told my people that I'm going to get vaccinated. I'm not going to test myself for the virus, because that's just asinine. There's no reason for me to do that. But I will get the vaccine, and I know it has not won me a lot of good reviews, because like, oh my God, how could you put that poison in your body and whatever, whatever, whatever. And the thing is, the reason why is because I still have people in my Facebook, in my group, that still subscribe to antibody inducing protocols. They still subscribe to cannabis. They still subscribe to painkillers. They still want to anesthetize themselves from the pain. They still practice selling their MLMs and all of their different concoctions. And so how is that any different than doing a vaccine when you're inducing antibodies, compounding the antibody induction? And so I want to say, you know what? Then if that is still your belief system, that people should be doing all the holistic remedies and the allopathic remedies, and you're not really doing jelly juice, well, I'll show you that I can get a vaccine, which you're so against, which does the same thing as all of your stupid little remedies, and I can survive it. Okay, which means then you don't really have to do all those remedies that you guys are promoting. You can do the jelly juice and survive it no matter what. But if I can survive a vaccine, which I will, okay, because let me tell you, if there, I mean, there was in Russia an article that Moderna was giving people the vaccine, and half of the people died and the other half people lived. Okay, so it's almost like there's a 50-50 chance to live through these vaccines, because that's relative to your predispositions. That's relative to all of your family medical history, your belief systems, and your biochemistry. And that's why there is a certain percentage of a death rate, or a percentage of efficacy. And the efficacy, in the context of the vaccine industry, is that you live through it, for one, okay, and that you get no reaction, okay. And when you get no reaction, it means that or you get very minimal reaction, then it's a very slight evolutionary response that you're inducing or experiencing. But what they are touting is a very strong evolutionary reaction, and that can work. That could be a double-edged sword, and it could be a blessing for some, or it could be a major curse for others. And again, that's going to be based on your individual predispositions and biochemistry. And so no matter what, you guys must do the jelly juice so you can reconfigure your body, release the excess, because there is absolutely no way you're going to escape this next level evolution. There's no way. And I've been trying to just get you guys primed for this, but some of you are still caught up in the politics, and I am too in some level. But I also know that the system and just the reactions to all of these politics around, the virus and the mess and the racism and the all lives matter, blue lives matter, that is definitely a distraction against the antibody induction, the virus triggering the biotech to give you guys antibody therapy and all of that. So you don't really think anything about antibodies because you're too concerned about Antifa or BLM, or we're being taken over by this entity or that entity. And when you think about it, no matter what, when you look at the two parties, you look at Trump and you look at Biden, they both are for the vaccine. They're both for the antibody therapy. But yeah, they may have different stances on, BLM and Antifa and All Lives Matter, but that's all just distraction. All these riots and people in pain is all, it sucks, but it's all distraction. But when it comes down to it, they already released the first wave of the vaccines and it just created a wave of craziness, right? Or vaccines, sorry, the first wave of viruses, and that created a wave of craziness. Then we're coming upon flu season. And flu season, is very famous for everyone becoming sick in some level. And it's a new strain of a flu virus. People are mutating them. The vaccines, I'm sure, help that out as well as far as the mutations of the viruses. But we have people who are very imbalanced and they're not applying the right chemistry. So it makes it easy for biotech to keep selling you a new drug, a new vaccine, a new therapy, because you will always take it if you believe that antibodies are the protection against evolution. And evolution is pain. We have come to find out with the jelly juice, evolution is pain. And all of the antibodies would suppress evolution, especially when you don't have a correct balance. And so taking it to the extreme is when you combine incompatible blood types, that the AB positive would definitely shut down an O negative body because of the antigen inducing antibodies. Okay, so you take that down. To different levels of exposure to new vaccines, exposures to new viruses, imbalances in your biochemistry, and it's in my book. I talk about the microbiome, and then any imbalances in your microbiome cause then antibodies to accumulate, and that's why the FDA is around to assess to see how many antibodies accumulate, how fast, and then and what is the census of the population. How many have parasitic imbalances? How many have fungal imbalances? How many have bacterial imbalances? And is this product going to induce this type of antibody effect or, antibiotic effect? And that's why I was quizzed by the Ohio Attorney General and the Federal Trade Commission, but mostly the Ohio Attorney General saying, is this a probiotic? Prove it's a probiotic. Because they know that anything that's antibiotic will cause then more antibody induction, which would then cause someone's death. So there was a reason why the lawyer with the Ohio Attorney General wanted me to answer those 10 questions. But the real question that they wanted to answer was, does this promote probiotics? Is this a probiotic? Of which then I got the juice tested by a food lab in Columbus, Ohio, a very big food lab. And they counted how many colony-forming units of probiotics, of lactobacillus, that could be reproduced in the amount of salt that I had in it. Okay? And so that was then enough for the OAG, and then the Federal Trade Commission was the one that said, okay, you cannot advertise cures. And they're right, because jelly juice is not a cure. We're not trying to stop pain. We're not trying to mitigate pain. We're not trying to create an antibody effect or an antibiotic effect whatsoever. We're not promoting any kind of cures or any kind of diets or anything else like that. In the beginning, yes, because I was falling into the holistic world. But no, jelly juice is just food. And you have to face your demons. You have to face the evolution. You must face a little bit of pain, if not a lot of pain, relative to your predispositions. And yes, you could use some of the holistic allopathic remedies to kind of help you with that transition. But like anything, it's a balance. You put too many antibodies or antibiotics that induce antibodies in your body, you will stop the evolution. And so that's always been, the balance of the holistic allopathic is how much can they prescribe to you as far as antibiotics to where it doesn't cause your death, but it can give you relief, and then you are stagnant, but then you start degrading over time. And so that's the role of the FDA, is to assess the different products that are on the market that are commercialized and assess all the different, drugs and remedies, and to assess just the overall statistics of what people are dealing with, and then how they would determine what would be recalled and not based upon people's reactions. Okay? And so but I'm telling you, I know my information is kind of getting lost in all of the distraction of the politics, and I understand that. And so if those of you that are paying attention, good for you. You're going to have to deal with your predispositions. It's going to suck. You're going to have to drink a lot of J juice. you know, your friends are going to be selling you diets and different remedies and telling you that sugar is, you know, the demon and salt is the demon and processed food is a demon. I'm telling you, that's why this book exists, which is so basic, is that we don't demonize sugar. We don't demonize salt. I give you the substantiation why salt and sugar are fine. What is lactobacillus? What is probiotics? What makes up the microbiome, and what are antibodies, and why we aren't promoting the different detoxes and different holistic remedies. And then understand that why we don't discriminate against food, because food is food, but why we have allergies. Now, I didn't put why we have allergies, but I'll tell you this. You know, when you get vaccinated or when you are exposed to an antibody that goes after any kind of peanut proteins. So people are asking, well, how did I get a food allergy and I've never been vaccinated? Because you were exposed to someone that had the antibody against the peanut protein. Inevitably, you caught it. It lay dormant in your system, and then you start eating more peanuts. That's when the antibody then came to life. You triggered that peanut protein antibody to go after any system or any cell in your body that was exposed to peanuts. So that's why they're saying, well, she ate too many peanuts. Well, the reason, food should never be an allergic reaction to food. But if there's an antibody program to go after nuts, you know, and fish or anything else like that, then that's why there's that inflammation. And then the remedy for that is then another secondary monoclonal bioengineered antibody to then go after that evolving cell that's been exposed to the fish proteins or the antibody that is causing to go after any fish proteins, and the body's trying to evolve, and then they completely destroy it to where you feel nothing. So you don't even feel the antibody trying to evolve the person, and the person is not feeling any more inflammation, which is basically the body trying to heal. Because let me tell you this, let me give you a scenario so you understand how this works. If you have a fish allergy or a nut allergy, and let's say you didn't take any kind of anti-inflammatory EpiPen, whatever, and you drank the J juice, you would be releasing the excess antibodies that are going after the peanut proteins and causing the inflammation. And then the body would adapt and take in the nutrition of the peanuts. But would I tell somebody who has a peanut allergy, don't take your anti-inflammatories or your EpiPens or your steroids? I would never tell them not to take their EpiPens. I would, because some people are not ready for that kind of evolution response. Because yeah, if you have a trouble eating certain foods, you are at a deficit. You are very unevolved, and I'm not saying in a bad way, but your body has not evolved to be able to handle the food supply and the environment. So you have to get your body to be able to handle the food supply, whether it's nut and fish or any other kind of allergy. Because that's why people get allergies, late onset of allergies, because that antibody lay dormant, and then when all the conditions were right, it triggered. Okay, and there's a lot of factors that trigger food allergies. Okay, but how do they get to begin with it? They say, well, yeah, family medical history, but why would a body be, you know, weaponized against food? Or why would a food be weaponized against a body, type of thing, right? And it's because of a program antibody that a person was exposed to, whether it was from a vaccinated person shedding or from a vaccine. Either way, program antibodies do cause the diversity in our society. And so the J juice is attempting to reconfigure your body to what it was before, prior to all the antibody programming that was perpetrated by biotech and then sustained by the holistic industry and all of their antibody or antibiotics, whether it's natural or synthetic, and their detoxes that are maintaining that programming. Because the allopathic creates the programming, the holistic sustains it. And then the Julia G says, screw them both. I subscribe to nobody like that. And we want people to feel the evolution, not suppress their evolution. Okay, so there's a lot to the Jilly Juice, and that's why I say if you are interested in Jilly Juice, just get the book, because it really just gives you a very 98 pages, a very brief synopsis of what it is that Jilly Juice is. It's not dangerous. all the hype around it is because people are afraid of feeling pain. They have been told by their holistic and allopathic professionals that salt is bad, sugar is bad. They've been demonized against the microbiome, which is the viruses, the parasites, the protozoa, the proteins, the fungus, and the bacteria. They have imbalances in their fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals, causing then antibody induction. And then the holistic allopathic just try to suppress evolution by giving you some kind of detox or painkiller. And they're still aging. I mean, another example is look at Rick Simpson with the Phoenix Tears, the cannabis, which is highly antibiotic. Okay, it induces cannabis and was it THC antibodies, and that's what comes up positive or negative on a titer test when you get drug tested. Okay, so you got to understand the role of jelly juice, and that's why I'm asking the questions. Can humans live indefinitely despite their environment? And they can if you understand how to balance out your biochemistry and have it adapt to the microbiome without you degrading in a rapid way. So, anyways, I don't know. It's pretty crazy watching the world. It's pretty crazy, all of this. But just be prepared. You have 5 months to get your body primed up to handle this evolution. And it's not going to be easy because you still have to catch up with the last evolutions that you have not been able to catch up. And that's all your predispositions. But now you have to catch up to this next evolution, which is the COVID. And how that's going to manifest on me, well, I've had some major revelations on, in this environment since January. After the first COVID, outbreak in like January, February that was mainstreamed, this is where this came to be. I changed from the pink salt to the white salt, then decided that I'm going to write the book, not somebody else. I'm not going to collaborate with anybody. So I wrote all of this. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And then I figured out the antibody connection, which is the real foundation of why people die. It's not candida, it's not parasites, it's not viruses. It's the fact that we are allowing the system to induce antibodies at a rapid level or a slow level relative to the intention. And that is then part of the vaccine industry is the antibodies, the RABs and the MABs, the recombinant antibodies, and the monoclonal antibodies. Okay, and then the thing with the whole Judy Mikovits and what she discovered, well, here's the thing. She knew that they were using antibodies that were going to create an immune response, and some of those immune responses in some people would be cancer because that's the body trying to evolve. But not everybody gets cancer right off the bat. But yes, over time, when you have an induction of antibodies over time, cancer will come into play if you don't know how to support your body correctly with the right constituents to then help the body be reprogrammed and support the new evolution. But cancer really is like an evolution, but you're not giving your body what it needs to support that. And that's why there is all these different misinformation in the body and why cancer can be complicated for some people. But not everybody dies from cancer, okay? Why people survive their cancers because they're stopping the programming of evolution. And when you stop the programming of evolution, you're not giving your body what it needs, but you're stopping the programming, which it leaves you stagnant, and then you're still degrading. Because even though those people that survive their cancer but not doing jelly juice, they're seeing now even more complications as they get older. So all the system is doing is just stopping that evolutionary process in the middle and giving you a few stages of execution, but the end result is still death. Okay, so where I was going with that as far as the jelly juice and all of that. Yeah, so anyways, but just do the jelly juice, okay? Understand that all the different diseases and imbalances is the body trying to evolve, and you have to give it what it needs. And so, yeah. So I just hope that you guys get this, you understand this in some way. And I know that I'm really fighting an uphill battle, but I can only hope. But yeah, do the jelly juice. That's all I could say. All right. Bye.